All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Bums podcast. Once again, it is your host, Rob, aka B-Ball Archives, and we've got a really great episode. I know I don't have my buddies, AJ and Adam, with me, but we're still going to have a great episode regardless. We're going to be talking about the women's NCAA championship game. A lot of chippiness there, obviously. Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark. There was a really heated moment at the end of that game. A lot of people have been talking about it. I'm going to kind of weigh in and give my 2 cents about that. Going to be talking Mavericks basketball. This is a team that is really, really struggling at the moment. They acquire Kyrie Irving. Everyone thinks it's going to go well. Not quite the case there. So we're going to dive into that. Going to be talking Kings basketball. The Beam team is going to the playoffs for the first time in almost 20 years. Going to be diving into that and what's going right for them. I'm also going to be talking Spurs, Pistons, Rockets. These are the three teams that are almost solidified at the bottom of the league. So these are the teams that have 14% chance to get the number one pick. Where do you see Victor fitting in the most? Because we're all assuming he's the number one pick. Going to be chatting about that a little bit as well. So, yeah, definitely appreciate you being here for another episode of the Baseline Bums podcast. Yeah, let's just dive on in. The women's NCAA championship game moment at the end. So, a lot of people have been saying this is taunting. This is something that's classless, something that doesn't belong in the game, but this is such a big part of the game, is trash talking, is going after another player. And, while I do agree there was a portion of me that feels like it may have been over the top, I still agree with what Reese did. She felt like she was standing up for herself and really wanted to kind of stick it to her at the end of the game and be like, hey, we know that, you like to celebrate this way, but I'm going to kind of throw it back at you. However, I do feel as if it's a little strange because, just as a player, I would always feel like in that moment, you're winning a championship game. You're winning a national championship game. Why would you focus on trying to taunt another player in that moment? I would want to be with the players that I was in the locker room with day in, day out, in practice, watching film. I want to be with those players celebrating in that moment, not necessarily focused on somebody else on the other team trying to taunt them. Even though I don't agree that it's classless, I'm not going to go that far. I do think it's a little bit over the top, but at the same time, it's very much a part of the game. You can't sit there and really, really draw her character into it. You can't say that, oh, this person doesn't have class. This person doesn't have any integrity. They're not holding themselves to a high standard. Talking from your high horse, because this has always been a huge portion of the game, is trash talking, and especially if you're a player that trash talks, if you get shown up, people are going to show it back tenfold. People are going to let you know you messed up. So to me, there, did Reese go a little bit over the top? Maybe. But at the end of the day, I don't really find anything largely wrong with it. I'm cool with it. So yeah, that's largely how I was feeling about the end of the women's NCAA game. Good drama. I mean, I think ultimately it's going to be good for the sport. I think people are going to want to tune in next year to find out what's going to be the next story, what's going to be the next narrative. And I think it's going to get more eyeballs on the women's game. I'm super stoked about it. I don't want to see people watching, anticipating a fight or anticipating some drama always. I want them to appreciate the quality basketball that we're seeing. But at the same time, if this is how they get to that point, then all the better. So yeah, that's essentially how I'm feeling about that in a nutshell. Yeah, just moving on to Mavericks basketball. Yeah, obviously they have been less than stellar. Yeah, the Mavericks have been disappointing since they got Kyrie. There's been confusion whenever I've seen multiple Mavericks games and late game situations. They don't really know how they're trying to close it out. That's one of the main issues. And obviously, who's defending? Who are the best defenders in Dallas right now? Yeah, I mean, you get rid of DFS and the guy that you brought in this offseason to really supplement the interior defense, your rim protection, JaVale McGee, he's not even playing. He's not even getting minutes. He's not the same player he once was. So it's like, where are you going with that? Is Christian Wood the best defender on the Mavericks? And if that's the case, then that's tough. That's really tough. And it went from, oh, we just need to put a player that can get buckets next to Luka, somebody to alleviate some of that scoring and offensive stress so that we're not so one guy ball dominant. And then all of a sudden, insert Kyrie, and things aren't going so well. They were a playoff team looking to capitalize on a lot of the success from last year, and then all of a sudden, they look like they're not going to even make the play in. So I'm looking at it through that lens, and they almost should just shut down Kyrie and Luka. I think they should. They don't really have anything to play for at this point in time. Even if they were to sneak into the play-in and somehow win 2 play-in games, come on. Are they really going to get past the first round? No. They would get stomped in the first round. It's just disappointing to see what's happening with the Mavs. But at the end of the day, it falls on Jason Kidd. A large portion of it does. Can he wrangle in these big personalities? Is he the guy that can get that done? And if he is, then if Kyrie stays, then maybe they turn it around. But I don't think he is. I don't think Jason Kidd is able to deal with a personality like Kyrie Irving and get him to play his premier level basketball. I just really don't. So yeah, I think the Mavs have seen better days. They're sitting 11th place right now. So yeah, that's not good enough to get yourself in the playoffs. So Mavs, you need to be looking better. But switching gears a little bit, going to a more positive note. We're talking Kings basketball. Sacramento Kings. They will be making the playoffs for the first time in 17 years since 2006. This drought is the longest drought in NBA history. When I'm looking at it through this lens, I'm happy for that franchise. I'm excited that Sacramento fans have something to get just jazzed up about. Like they have players that are performing, all-star guys in De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, really good role players in Harrison Barnes, Malik Monk, and you have young guys, really, really young guys, rookie Keegan Murray, who is going to flourish and continue to grow within that organization. And when I'm looking at it through that lens, oh yeah, and I'd even mention Kevin Huerter, really, really good role players. And so whenever I'm looking at it through that lens, this is a team, if they stay healthy, can be really dangerous. I know that they're looking like they're going to be going up against Golden State, maybe even the Lakers first round. Both teams have more playoff experience than they do, obviously. But I still feel like they have a good chance. They have a good core. Like, I believe in that Kings team. Like, I trust in a guy like De'Aaron Fox, who's, in my opinion, been the clutchest player this season. There really hasn't been a guy that's been clutcher than De'Aaron Fox when you look at his fourth quarter scoring, his efficiency, his output, and the way it's led to wins. It's tough to ignore that. So, yeah, the Kings have been producing some really, really exciting basketball. I'm in on the Beam team. I'm a big Spurs fan. Everyone knows I'm a huge Spurs fan. So I'm all for seeing a small market team have success. So to see the Kings back in a playoff situation, giving a thumbs up to that. Definitely am happy to see the handful of Kings fans I know. They got a big smile on their face. So Absolutely. That's definitely a positive narrative in the NBA today. Um, but I want to talk about my Spurs a little bit and the two other teams who are at the bottom of the league. We're talking Spurs, we're talking Pistons, we're talking Rockets. These are the three teams who are at the very bottom of the NBA, who are almost destined to have a 14% chance at that number one pick, which we all know is probably going to be Victor Wembanyama. Scoot Henderson is in there, Amon Thompson is in there as well, but we know it's probably going to be Victor. We saw his missed three, and then he went in with that one-handed putback dunk and just really put a punctuation mark on that whole play. And it's jaw dropping when you're seeing him do this. So whenever we're looking at a guy like that, it's almost certain he's going to be the number one pick. But where would he benefit the most? What team would benefit from having him? Obviously, he's going to be an amazing player if he can stay healthy, but not just from me being a Spurs fan, but just from a logistical standpoint. I think the Spurs are a great fit. Jakob Pertl's out the door. There's really no great big man poised to make a splash in San Antonio. And when you look at the history of big men in San Antonio, and you got David Robinson, you got Tim Duncan, this is an organization that loves to build around the big. And I couldn't see a better big that looks like the future of the NBA than Victor Wembanyama. So I could easily see Pop making a move for Victor, getting Victor, and really setting the Spurs up for success in the future. And I really see him having the most success in San Antonio. I look at the other two teams like Rockets. They have a big man, an Alperen Şengün, who they're looking to give tons of minutes to. He's got a really really great skill set. Can finish around the basket. Has really really efficient baby hooks over left shoulder, right shoulder. A lot of really great down low moves. Needs to improve defensively, but he's definitely a guy for the future that you can build around. And Houston's looking forward to that. And in the Pistons have so many young big men. I'm looking at Isaiah Stewart. They just brought in Wiseman. They have Bagley. They have Jalen Duren. They just got last year in the draft. They have young bigs that they are looking to develop right now. So while Victor Wembanyama would be better options than all of them, I still feel like they like the cards that they have, and they wouldn't benefit from having another young big as much as a team like the Spurs would. So, maybe that's just me speaking it into existence. Maybe that's just me being like, oh, the Spurs would be a great fit, and they would. But, I think that positivity is going to go a long way. So, yeah, I think out of the teams at the bottom, Victor would be, he'd be best at home in San Antonio, so to speak. But at the end of the day, the more highlights I see of Scoot Henderson, I wouldn't be upset with him either. I would not be upset with him either. So I think, either way, whether you're getting Scoot, whether you're getting Victor, whether you're getting Amon Thompson, I think either way the Spurs would get a player that's going to be a core player for their future. Absolutely, without a doubt. But yeah, those are the topics today. I appreciate y'all for joining me. This has been another episode of the Baseline Bums podcast. It's your boy Rob, aka B-Ball Archives. I am the host. Definitely thank you for stopping by. Would like to give a shout out to our sponsor, Turning Point Beer, in Bedford, Texas. They're putting out some delicious IPAs and delicious beers on the regular. So go ahead and check them out. Absolutely. And as always, it is Go Spurs Go.